Hey, Forrest here. Nothing like getting paid. And with ICCU's mobile app, I can deposit checks or accept Zelle payments so the money hits my account fast. I just wish there was an app for mowing the rest of these lawns.
Right now, Lithia Ford of Boise is buying used vehicles. How much you want for the SUV?
I don't know.
Well, Lithia Ford will give you more than that.
How much more?
More than you think.
I'm not thinking anything.
I'm thinking you might get even more than that. See how much more you can get at Lithia Ford of Boise.
When it comes to concrete, we've got you covered. Rowpaint.com offers custom concrete coating services for your garage, business, warehouse, and more. And we do it in one day. We are your complete concrete coatings solution.
This is Bronco Nation News Live. The best interviews, the most informed opinions, the latest breaking news, all from the top Boise State insiders. Joining BJ Rains today is KTVB Sports Director Jay Tust. Check him out on Twitter at KTVB Sports Guy and make sure to check out KTVB.com. Today's broadcast is coming from the Cutwater Spirits Canned Cocktail Studios. Check out one of their more than 30 flavors of pre-mixed premium cocktails at your local gas station or grocery store. Now here's Jay Tust and BJ Rains with another edition of Bronco Nation News Live.
Hey, how we doing, Boise State fans? Welcome on in. It is a Tuesday edition of Bronco Nation News Live here at BroncoNationNews.com, and it is a special afternoon edition. We're in the middle of fall camp here, and we got stand's not working. We'll just hold it tonight. We're in the middle of fall camp and interviews and schedules being changed, so got to kind of bear with us for the next couple of weeks here. The shows might be at different times, and we were over at Boise State practice today. And so today's show is an afternoon show. I was kind of hoping maybe something would have broke between now and then in the realignment race anyway. Nothing really crazy has happened that we've noticed in the last couple of days. But get a chance to catch up with Jay Tust, still working his way back from leave, spending time with the family. But you were out at practice today and at interviews today. And now you're on your back porch while your kiddos are sleeping. Yeah, but we appreciate you for jumping on, man. How's it going?
BJ, keep it down, man. It's nap time here at the Tust household. Not for us, obviously, but for the kids right now.
You got the headphones on there, man. Come on.
Keep it down a little bit, man.
All right.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good. Yeah, swung by practice for at least a little bit. It's kind of my little bit of an escape right now. Sometimes I call it work. Soon I will once again, but now it was just a little escape to get out and check out the sights of what's going on at practice. The guys now got their shells on, meaning their shoulder pads and their helmets, and soon they're going to transition into their full gear. And actually, when we go there, it's going to start to look like football. Yeah.
Tomorrow's the first day in full pads. They'll be in the indoor facility tomorrow, but it was getting a little physical out there today. Had some nice plays. Titus Toller, I saw, had a nice interception. The Wisconsin transfer. We're putting that up as we speak on the YouTube channel for the highlights if you want to check that out. There was some other action. I know I saw you, Jay, down there over in the corner with the defensive line and some of those guys. Obviously, we talked to Ahmad Hassanein today. We'll talk about his story a little bit, but we are going to talk a good chunk of the show about conference realignment and what's going on there, what we think might happen, get Jay's thoughts on that. But since we are fresh off practice, I wanted to start with that. Like I said, I know you were down there getting the D-line, probably getting some video of Hassanein for stuff today. But overall, what'd you take away from practice today?
For me, BJ, we got the chance to catch up with Ahmad today, and that defensive line continues to really be a focus for me. And I certainly think they think they have some potential down there. Some of the guys they brought in through the transfer portal, I think, are going to make an impact. But I mean, we go back to the Kellen Moore days, BJ, and I know that left-handed quarterback was unbelievable at what he did. At the same time, you want to talk about maybe the biggest difference off that team and this team, it might be the defensive line. And I know it's really tough to compare the two, but when Boise State was elite, they had an elite defensive line. I mean, you go back to that 2011 squad, BJ, when they're running out Chase Baker and Tyrone Crawford and Shea McClellan, all three NFL draft picks behind them. They had guys like Ricky Chongachu and Jarrell Root and Chase Baker, and Baker played for a little bit in the NFL too. Those are just some really deep and talented defensive lines. And I think if this team wants to maximize what they're capable of doing this year, they're going to need to see that group really mature in a hurry, grow up, and produce. I'm not saying that I don't want that to have a negative connotation, but just natural development of being a football player when you're in your late teens and early 20s. Like, they just need that group to come along and produce, and in all honesty, probably exceed expectations this year.
No doubt about it. I think Eric Chenander has one of the most difficult jobs on the team.
Absolutely.
Trying to get these guys to go. And we did talk to Ahmad Hassanein, and I know I'm sure you guys will have a feature on him on the newscast tonight. Jordan Kay is writing a big feature on him. Pretty cool story, man. We talked about him a little last year when he kind of burst onto the scene, but was born in the U.S., moved and lived in Egypt for a good portion of his life, and had never played the game of football. And then his brother kind of got him into it a couple years ago, and he was just watching TV and saw a Rams game on and said, "What's this? How do I do this?" And it kind of went from there. And I know he'll be the focal point today. We talked to Marco Notarini also, who was his roommate and went with him to Egypt this summer. Pretty cool story, though. The first Division I player, first person ever from the country of Egypt to be a Division I college football player. There's less than 100 Division I athletes in any sport of all time that hail from from Egypt, and so pretty cool story. And I think he's just kind of scratching the surface. They moved him to the end, the edge, kind of defensive end position this year. He's trimmed up, lost some weight. And I think, this could kind of be the season. I think he said it himself. He said, it's go time. It's time to go. It's time to, make my mark here. And he wants to play in the NFL, and he wants to try to put a good season together here. And I think that it's a cool story and has a chance, I think, to be cooler and become maybe even more of a national story this year, Jay.
I agree with you, BJ. Yeah, I think that he said as of like 5 years ago, he didn't really speak English, right? Isn't that what he said, BJ? He didn't
speak English till he moved back to the state, till he moved back over here. Yep.
And for him to stand in front of the media today and articulate the way that he did and was passionate, and I just thought that I was blown away, BJ. I have high expectations for him, not only as a player, but just what you hear about his character. It's all consistent. Everybody you talk to talks about his care factor and his intensity. Every single person brings that up that you ask about him. And so I think that he's got a chance to really make a big impact on this defense this year. And in the past, he was willing to do whatever he could to get on the field. Now he's moving into being a junior and upperclassman, and I think that Boise State's going to find a way to utilize him to be a force on defense. I think, I know when we started ranking players over the summer, BJ, I can't remember exactly where Ahmed was for you, but I think if for this defense to be elite with him playing the edge position, he's one of the most important players on this defense this season, without a doubt in my mind.
Yeah, we had him somewhere around 20, maybe. I mean, he was definitely on the top 25, but I don't know how high he was. But
well, you see, I mean, now as you said earlier, he's down 20 pounds. He's playing a new position. They're not asking him to be a body anymore that can fill in. They are asking him to go out and be a dynamic playmaker. And so that's one of those ones. If all of a sudden now we're redoing those rankings that we did midsummer and fall camp, sure, man, he's probably moving inside my top 8 at this point.
No doubt about it. He's going to be a key player. You have Herbert Gums, but some other guys along that defensive line. But in terms of that edge position, obviously Dimitri Washington's a guy that needs to stay healthy and be out there. But they just, as you talked about, just don't have a lot of depth. And so do you like them moving him to the edge spot?
I like it when he proves that he can gain strength, speed, and still lose 20 pounds. That's one hell of an offseason for a kid that's only been playing football for a few years, living in what is a foreign country to him. And I'm again really, really impressed by him, and can't wait to see what he can do this fall. You said it back at the beginning. He concluded his interview today by basically saying it's time. Like, it is time for him to step up and be a big part of this defense.
Well, as I said, I'm trying to load the clip up here, and I'm not having much success. I was able to throw in the interception from Titus Toller, the Wisconsin transfer. Anything else that you mentioned down there with D-line? I know we were watching the quarterbacks do some drills while I try to see why this isn't loading here. Anything else stand out to you from practice today or in the couple days you've seen it?
Obviously we can only go so far into detail, right, BJ? But one thing that did catch my eye a little bit is, Billy Bones is back for his 6th year as a wide receiver, for this Boise State football team. And you want to talk about character. Billy is off the charts. He looks physically great, ready to go, ready to have his best season that he's ever had in his career. But I will say, like, there was a point in time in practice today where he didn't have like the best release, or at least it looked like Bush Hamden was a little thought that he could do a better job, or thought that there was a different technique he could use. And man, Bush went over there, they talked. You could tell they were going to get that corrected. I guess what this comes down to, man, they're paying attention to the finest of details right now. They want to be ready to go. They want this offense to look differently than what it did the last year or two here at Boise State. And so I just thought that that just stood out to me, man. That you got a 6-year senior, a new offensive coordinator with great knowledge of this program. They are paying attention to the finest of details to make sure that they are ready to go.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And it was nice, beautiful weather today out there.
Yeah, perfect.
It was just a great overall day. So, and we did, as we transition, I for some reason this program's not working properly. I'm having trouble even getting anything to load. But I had a photo which I knew was going to make folks on social media kind of get excited, and I kind of trolled people a little bit. But Jeremiah Dickey was out there watching some of practice today, and saw him on the phone in the parking lot, and just ran out there and took a picture real quick. And I checked with him after I posted it to make sure he was cool with it. I was just kind of having some fun, put the eye emojis up there. Who knows whether he was talking to his dentist or the AD at Oregon State. You have no clue. But he did stop by a little bit, and that is obviously, we asked him if he had anything to say in terms of interviews or anything, if you wanted to comment. And he said, I don't have much for you guys right now yet, but he was hurrying over to a meeting for the North End Zone project, and didn't have a lot of time to stop, but he said didn't have a ton for us. Whether that's true or not, who knows? But he did say he'll get with us, when there's stuff to share here in the near future. But I do want to switch to realignment, Jay, and what's going on there. But first, we obviously have to thank a couple of our sponsors here. We are in the Cutwater Spirits mobile studios, more than 30 flavors of pre-mixed premium cocktails. Pick one up at your local gas station or grocery store, 2 for $7. Highly recommend the Long Island or the margaritas. Ropaint.com. They have done Leon Rice's garage now. They can do yours as well. ROEpaint.com. Check them out. The concrete coatings, highly recommend them. And again, Coach Rice had it done a couple weeks ago, and you heard him talking about it on the one of the broadcasts in Canada, how happy he was with them. So check them out, ROEpaint.com. Lithia Ford of Boise, the fall kickoff sale has begun. You can check them out, lithiafordboise.com. View their full inventory of vehicles. Do what the Raines family did. Purchase an F-150 from Lithia Ford. You will not be disappointed. Lithia Ford of Boise. Idaho Central Credit Union, ICCU.com. We can officially announce a week from tonight. We were pushing back. It was supposed to be tonight. We're pushing back the Tyson Degenhart show to next Tuesday because we have it set up where our guest will be Talon Green. So Talon Green will speak with the media on Monday, Jay. Bush Hamden and Talon will do the whole big group media on Monday first, so everybody gets them first, and then Tyson Degenhart's going to get a one-on-one with them after that for the Tyson Degenhart show next Tuesday. Make sure next Tuesday at 8 o'clock, Tyson Degenhart one-on-one with Talon Green, arguably the two biggest faces of Boise State athletics right now, hanging out one-on-one. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're looking forward to that. And if you need some new Boise State gear, theblueandorangestore.com. Check them out, theblueandorangestore.com. Free shipping, any order over $40, or you can just go there at the Boise Town Square Mall on the second floor and get all your gear for that UCF home opener. If you're going on the road up to Washington, all the coaches' sideline apparel, the new hats, all that stuff, they've got it at theblueandorangestore.com. Okay, Jay, been a crazy weekend, crazy couple of days. Me and Johnny had record viewership yesterday talking about it. We're approaching 100 people again, at least on YouTube right now, watching it right now, which is really good for a random Tuesday afternoon. What's your take on where things stand? We're kind of all just checking Twitter every 2 minutes, waiting for something to break. According to Ross Dellinger of Yahoo, who I am trying to effort to get on the show in the next couple of days, the Mountain West presidents had a call last night to discuss this, but nothing was decided there. Nothing obviously has happened yet. Sounds like three options. The Mountain West teams, join the Pac-12. The Pac-12 teams join the Mountain West, or there's some sort of merger between the three. And I guess the other option is the ACC or something crazy comes in and they do that deal. But where do things stand for you in terms of realignment and everything right now?
First off, as a kid that grew up on the West Coast, I went to Washington State University, one of the schools that has really been left on the outside looking in at this thing. I am bummed the Pac-12 has fallen apart. It's over 100 years of a legacy, and I mean, it's unfortunate that, I felt like the Pac-12 kind of hung their hat on that for too long instead of being proactive in this realignment era. And ultimately, it led to their demise. I mean, there's 4 teams left in it now, and Cal, Stanford, Oregon State, and Washington State. And in all honesty, BJ, 2 of those schools are not like the other two that are remained. And I think in terms of what they emphasize at their universities, heck, probably when it comes down to the money that's poured into those universities, not just athletics, but the university as a whole. I mean, Stanford's endowment is probably all 3 of those, combined for that matter, and more. I don't even know. It's just unfortunate, but we'll see what happens next, man. It's really anybody's guess. You could either believe that a merger or something like that's going to happen very easily, or you can find reasons to shoot it down. I know that everybody wants to fire back right now by saying if at least 9 Mountain West presidents are on board, then that's a reason why they could, essentially eliminate the exit fee from the Mountain West, which is significant. That's a lot of people getting on the same page, though, BJ, with a little bit of uncertainty. And, I kind of agree with you. I think you put this out there a little bit earlier where, if there is some type of merger, I don't know if you take everybody. And I know that's not going to be a popular thing, but if you want all the schools to get the most money possible for a TV deal, you can't take dead weight. And unfortunately, when you look at schools like Hawaii, San Jose State, there's just a few schools out there that I don't know if they would, increase the value of teams that, the average annual value for teams. And so I think that's where it gets a little bit tricky, and we'll see what happens. But, I will also say this before I toss it, turn it back over to you. There are a lot of people that give Craig Thompson a lot of flack. But if it was not for him and the way that he structured this really aggressive exit fee, the Mountain West probably, they're hell, BJ, there's a chance that it might not exist today because teams would have been more freely could have bounced around to different conferences if a 16.5 to $34 million exit fee wasn't staring them in the face. I mean, you look at that exit fee, BJ.
Yeah.
Man, what a job by Craig Thompson to keep the Mountain West together, because that right there is probably the reason why the conference is still standing today.
As our friend John Mallory would say, there's a lot of meat on the bone in terms of the things you just said there and ways we can go. I mean, they're not going to do it, but I think Wyoming's another team that you could see that really wouldn't bring a lot. They're one of the founding members or whatever, I guess, which they're probably safe. But I think Wyoming doesn't, in terms of eyeballs and attendance and market size and all that, Wyoming doesn't really fit any of the boxes you're trying to check. I don't think they'd be left out, though, but I think you could very easily see a scenario where it would make sense to do that. Even in Mark Ziegler's article, I don't know if you read that the other night, he brought up that a source had told him Nevada could be in trouble. Yeah. I would think that they're probably safe too, but for some reason he said he was a little surprised to hear that Nevada could be in a little bit of trouble if that were the case. People have brought up New Mexico. I think they still have enough basketball tradition and they still bring enough to the league from basketball perspective that probably outweighs everything else. But certainly from a football perspective, from a lot of the other sports, they haven't done a whole lot down there in Albuquerque either, and they don't have the largest TV market either. Certainly those are probably the first ones that come to mind when you look at schools that are probably, in some sort of trouble because, but then do you go get Gonzaga for basketball? Do you go get SMU? Would you be able to convince Stanford if you can get SMU and Tulane, 2 academic strong universities? Mm-hmm. You get into the Dallas-Fort Worth area, with SMU. I know Tulane, some people kind of scoff at that. They're kind of over there by themselves, but again, they bring some academics, and if that helps with Stanford, maybe that's a trade-off you take. Another central time zone team, which helps for game times and things like that.
Yeah.
I even brought up like a South Florida, go all the way to the East Coast. Brett McMurphy kind of scoffed at that a little bit yesterday, saying that nobody really wants them because they haven't done a whole lot lately in sports, but they are in a top 10 TV market, and you could get into the East Coast and have 3 or 4 different TV windows for football. So there's a lot of different ways you can do this. But you also mentioned the 9 of 12 voting to eliminate the exit fees. that would essentially be because they would just vote to dissolve the league. And so that is the one that I'm hoping doesn't happen. Like Gloria Nevarez doesn't deserve that. Like the Mountain, like all the staff members at the Mountain West, like the Mountain West has the upper hand here. If all of a sudden the allure of joining the quote unquote Pac-12 name leads to all these schools just leaving, like dissolving the conference, leaving without paying a fee, and then people like Gloria Nevarez are just there without a job. That to me would just be the worst of all these situations. Like Gloria Nevarez has done an awesome job. I mean, George Kliakov, whatever his name is the one that should be out of job if something happens here. And I'm not advocating for anybody to be out of a job. I just, you know, the different scenarios in play, because I said this yesterday, but I don't even think that the Power 5 status is going to stay with this new Pac-12. I don't think all the money's going to be the same. So if that's the whole goal, is just to keep the more prestigious name, the Pac-12, whether it maybe for 1 or 2 years it stays, but I don't think that the other conferences are going to see this conference as good enough with and on par with them to deserve the same revenue share and all that stuff. So if that's the case, I just think that makes the most sense for at least Oregon State and Washington State to come on over and join the Mountain West. And then you try to maybe pick off, like I mentioned, SMU or somebody else. Maybe you make the call to Memphis. I don't know if they'd be interested or not, but if they don't have a better option and you're building this big conference over here, and if you can get Stanford and get Cal and get the other Pac-12 teams, maybe all of a sudden that to Memphis becomes a much better option than what they're in right now. I don't know. That, you know, but again, is that, or you have the straight merger where they try to combine the leagues together, everybody keeps their jobs, they somehow share all of the money from the tournaments and TV revenue, but again, in a year or two that could be gone anyway. So which of the three scenarios that I just kind of laid out there, the Mountain West dissolving, they go to the Pac-12, the Pac-12 teams just coming under the Mountain West umbrella, or a merger with either like a new name of some sort, what do you see as most likely here?
Man, I still got kind of like a little caveat to that. If Cal and Stanford truly do go join the ACC, I think you see Oregon State and Washington State just join the Mountain West. If it's down to 2,
sure.
There's not, as you said, that Johnny would say, there's not enough meat on the bone there for the Pac-12 to really survive at that point. I don't know how there is right now, but there might be just enough. Unfortunately, you know, when it comes to like the Autonomous 5 and, you know, the Autonomous 5, they get bigger NCAA unit shares and bigger NCAA college football playoff shares and things like that. And so as long as that still exists, there is potential for a more lucrative future in the Pac-12. That's like, I don't know exactly how that changes, by the way, BJ. I mean, that's like part of, you know, I just don't, that's like part of NCAA rules. Like, I just don't know how quickly they can lose Autonomous 5 status. I will say this, though, that I believe you need at least 6 schools in a conference to be recognized as a conference. And right now there's only 4 in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
The timing issue there, BJ, is that everybody's leaving the Pac-12 next season. In order for a Mountain West school to get into the Pac-12 by next season, they're going to have to pay $34 million. The Pac-12 can't wait 2 years and reduce that buyout to $17 million, or wait 3 years when the TV deal is up in the Mountain West and potentially even lower that buyout. The Pac-12 can't wait anymore. They've waited too long. They've got to go. And that's why if I'm the Mountain West, I get uber aggressive. I worry about a merger because I think that could make things you jeopardize yourself, I think, if you're the Mountain West, if you breathe life back into the Pac-12. And so I'm just aggressive. I love your idea about Gonzaga. That was something that I thought over the weekend too, and I almost tweeted, and then I saw you bring it up, and I was
just have nowhere to go at this point. They're not going to the Big 12. The Pac-12 is what it is, and they're going to get left behind. And so I think they needed, BYU's gone now already. I mean, I think they need to just find a better basketball league, or they're really going to get left behind in all this.
I just think that it makes the Mountain West better. It makes Gonzaga potentially better. I love that idea, and so I just get aggressive. If I'm the Mountain West, I get aggressive. I attack what I can get, because the Pac-12 showed us, if you wait and do nothing, it will lead to your demise, and that's exactly what happened. And it's completely unfortunate. it still doesn't seem real to me. It still doesn't seem real to me, the fact that, USC is not going to be going to Pullman anymore. And that was like, the freaking Super Bowl in Pullman. I watched Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart in college. That was unbelievable. And so that's just too bad for them. But
it is.
I still do think there's a way that it could be fun. And BJ, as you said, man, like, align something solid out west, because now you have a chance to be the premier conference out west. You will dominate the Pacific time zone for the most part. The Mountain time zone. If you can move and get SMU's got a ton of money. Their boosters are insane.
Yeah. And that's what Derek says. The posturing by the AAC saying they'd be interested in adding, some of the teams from the Pac-12. He says that the AAC posturing seems to show they're maybe worried about the Mountain West poaching SMU or Memphis or some of those teams.
If I'm Oregon State and Washington State, the one reason why I would be apprehensive about that move, apparently there's more money out east when it comes to these TV deals, but I believe the AAC, annual average value is a couple more million than the Mountain West at this point. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to assume that when you're talking about your entire varsity athletic program traveling way out east as opposed to in the mountain time, right in this region, I'm going to guess that might add up to $2 million, And so I don't know if there is a whole lot of financial incentive for, Oregon State or Washington State to join that league, as much so as it would be the Mountain West. And, from my understanding, BJ, that the Mountain West would just kind of have to eat it on the front end when it comes to adding 2 more teams. And, the slivers of the pie probably do get a little bit.
Oh, we lost Jay there for a second. We'll see if we can get him back on. I was actually going to tell you about a new deal we're running right now anyway while we get Jay back on here. But there's Jay. Jay, 1 second. I was starting to say that if you're liking what you're seeing here at Bronco Nation News, we'd love to have you subscribe. We're offering a $1 deal. That's not the correct promo code. Don't use that promo code. But the promo code is FallCamp23. FallCamp23. You can try us for $1 for an entire month. BroncoNationNews.com. Exclusive columns from Mike Prater, from Jordan, from myself. $1 for the first month if you do the monthly membership, and then it renews for $6.99 a month. If you want to do the flat fee one-time payment for the year and not worry about it, we'll give you 2 months free. So it's $70, and we also throw in a $20 gift card to Taco Bell. So $70 for the yearly membership. Just sign up for the yearly membership. You get 2 months free, and you also get a $20 gift card thanks to our sponsors at Taco Bell. So a ton of conference realignment coverage. We're posting in the message boards. This is the time to kind of jump in. We got fall camp going on, conference realignment, a lot of news going on right now around Boise State athletics, and we've got you covered at Bronco Nation News. So hopefully you will please consider jumping on board with a subscription. Most of our content is now behind the paywall. Some of these shows may even go behind the paywall here moving forward. So another new cool show that's going to start Monday night that we'll tell you about later that I don't even think Jay knows about yet. So a lot of cool stuff happening at Bronco Nation News. And again, please subscribe if you're able to. $70 for the full year or $6.99 a month at BroncoNationNews.com. Jay, you mentioned Washington State, and being an alum, they don't have a lot of options, it seems like, at this point. It does suck. Like I'm there right there with you. Like, to me, it was kind of like when Missouri left for the SEC. Like, Kansas, Missouri was like this great rivalry. The Big 12 obviously, didn't crumble. It got close, but it didn't crumble like the Pac-12 is. And I wasn't as worried about that as I was just the history and the tradition of growing up of 100 years of KU and Mizzou playing football and playing basketball. And so I know the feeling. It just the rivalry leaving was just terrible. But in terms of Washington State, what do you think they want to do? Obviously, them and Oregon State are probably, in alignment on this, and they're kind of together, and then Cal and Stanford are maybe together. But what realistic options do they have at this point that are left? It seems like one way or another, Boise State's going to be a conference opponent of Washington State next season.
Man, my alma mater is in a world of hurt, BJ, because they already have kind of a significant athletics debt right now, and their source of revenue is going to get really slashed here in another year. And Pat Chun, their athletic director, he has his work cut out for him to try to find a solution here. I don't know. I mean, I think the easiest answer is they wind up in the Mountain West at this point. and that's an unfortunate move for them. But at this point, man, it just kind of is what it is. I don't think there's a better option. A couple of my buddies were texting me and they were asking me what's going to happen to Washington State, and I was like, the answer. Like I think we all know the answer. There's not going to be a real positive outcome for either Washington State or Oregon State, it seems right now. And so it seems like in all likelihood, it's the Mountain West. If it still is a form of the Pac-12, it's not even going to be close to the version, especially monetarily, that they saw in the past. And so they have some stuff that they got to figure out. I think my buddy phrased it as that he just hopes for some white knight, to come by and save the day, but I just don't see it happening.
Well, Kareem the Dream, friend of ours, always comments he thinks that white knight for the Mountain West could be Florida State. He says go get Florida State, Oregon State, Wazoo, Stanford, and then you'll have Gonzaga, and you'll have quite the conference there. Don't know if that.
Why didn't we think of that? Why just add Florida State?
Now, JT says news has been super quiet today. And then a comment here, I'm curious, Glenn Walker says the perception is the Mountain West is slow moving on this. Do you feel differently? The fact that the Mountain West hasn't really said anything, we haven't heard much news other than one meeting of the presidents. What do you make of the where things stand? And stuff happened so quickly last week, and yet really we haven't seen a whole lot happening, at least publicly, with the Mountain West. I can promise you they're not sitting there on their hands, not doing anything here.
It's really funny, BJ. We were talking about this a little bit in interviews today. There are some reporters that have been right, some reporters that have been wrong. This whole thing, when it comes to realignment, we all have our sources, and depending on, what the scenario is, like, it's just going to be biased information. It is what it is. There's schools and conferences out there that are trying to better position themselves right now. And so they might say one thing to somebody else when really something else is happening. And I don't think it's a matter of lying or anything like that. I just think it's putting more energy into effort into something you hear is possible. So, what's that? You speak it into existence or something like that. And I think the Mountain West is doing their due diligence. I don't think this league talks as much as maybe other leagues or other presidents at other schools, and especially maybe one down in the desert, I would say. But it is what it is, and I think that I would assume in the next week or so, because you just can't wait. I feel like we're going to hear some type of update one way or the other.
Yeah, you would think in the next couple of days something has to happen here. But I don't know. It's just they're asking about why not a 3-team merger. I don't know if any scenario where the ACC or the AAC gets together and you have some national big conference, and the AAC and the Mountain West just decide to take the 16 best teams and make it the 5th best conference in the country.
You can go ahead and try.
Travel just seems too much for me. It's one thing if you're getting the $50 million in the Big Ten or whatever, but for that conference to have that kind of travel when the payout just wouldn't be there, I don't think it's worth it.
One thing I will say, BJ, is I know we're probably getting close here, but one thing I did want to say, the most unfortunate thing of all this is football gets all of the headlines, and all of this is going on because of football. Football, I'm not trying to take away from anything because those guys work year-round like none other. At the same time, they have maybe 6 road games a year on average.
On a charter plane.
On a chartered plane that goes directly there. They stay there for a night. They might stay after the game for a night, and they charter directly back. You have a lot of Olympic sport programs that are not going to benefit from that luxury. Heck, even the Boise State men's basketball team. Obviously, football is 1 at Boise State. Basketball is 2. Basketball is a revenue-generating sport at Boise State still. They don't charter to every game. You know that, obviously, BJ. And so to have all these other Olympic sports that have got to figure out a way to deal with this travel when they have to, A, go on more road trips than football, and B, not benefit from chartered flights like football, it's not right, man. I feel, in a way, this goes back to almost NIL, where it was like, okay, let's give the players NIL. We'll throw some peanuts at them. And then the real money makers just change everything and be like, no, we gave them NIL. We do whatever we want, right? This is a business now. We said it. Whatever.
Well, James has the final solution here. Jay Tust for Pack Mount Commish.
Let's go.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And I do want to quickly mention the bracket is out for, you mentioned basketball. The bracket is out for the ESPN Events Invitational in Orlando. And a pretty nice draw, I think, for Boise State. They will play the final game, the fourth quarterfinal game of day one. 6 p.m. Mountain Time. They will play Virginia Tech, and that was one of the two teams that did not make the NCAA tournament last year that's in the field. They were one of the top NIT teams, I believe, on the bubble, the wrong side of it. But you get a winnable game in game one, which will still probably be a quad two game, quad one game, and then they'll play either Iowa State or VCU in game two. The top two teams in the tournament, at least in most of the preseason rankings, Texas A&M, who's like 15th, and then Florida Atlantic, who's top 10, are both on the other side of the bracket. So I don't know how they did the bracket. You would have thought they would have put the top two teams on opposite sides, but theoretically, they've kind of got Boise State as like the number 2 seed in the tournament down there at the bottom of the bracket. So 2 winnable games, I think, Jay, but 2 games that are not going to, still going to get you quad 1, quad 2 opportunities, no matter who you play in those first 2 games, 2 kind of solid games. But I think winnable games and then a chance to play potentially a top 15 team on day 3. So it works out pretty nicely with them. We'll find out. I don't think it's going to overlap too bad, but you do have the potential on Friday. The football game, I believe, is in the afternoon on Black Friday against Air Force. What time in Boise does that start? Is it 2 o'clock?
I think it's 2.
So that's 4 o'clock Eastern, and the game times are either 5:30 or 8 Eastern. So if Boise State wins the first game, you'll watch 2 o'clock for football, then 6 o'clock for basketball would be perfect. But if they lose the first game, it'll overlap a little bit for game 2 there. But overall, I think a pretty nice draw in that tournament.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm not going to say I can't wait because I don't wish days to go by faster than they already do. But that time of year when the 2 seasons overlap and the holidays kick off, man, it is an awesome time of year.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Jay, get some sleep, man. Appreciate you jumping on as you're mixing in some family time with getting back into work swing a little bit. So we appreciate it. We had a couple more comments we don't have time for. Corey, I'm sorry you're asking about the Canada trip. We've talked about that plenty, but we will try to do that maybe with Jordan tomorrow if we get more time. But stay tuned to social media. Be watching KTVB, all their various newscasts, KTVB.com, all their social media channels. They'll have full coverage of Boise State fall camp tonight and anything else that breaks with realignment. And we'll have you covered as well. Bronco Nation News tomorrow morning. We're going to try to do it in between practice and interviews. Jordan and I will be live by 10 o'clock tomorrow after we watch practice. So 10 a.m. tomorrow, we'll have the latest on realignment. We'll have the latest on practice. And we'll have some interviews tomorrow as well. But go subscribe. We'd love to have you. BroncoNationNews.com. Click on the register or subscribe tab over in the far right. And again, Jordan will have a story on Ahmad Hassanein coming up later this afternoon. Plenty more to come. We appreciate you guys. Jay, thanks again. Thanks to all of our great sponsors. Thanks to all of you. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you at 10 a.m. tomorrow unless something breaks first. Bronco Nation News Live, BroncoNationNews.com.